Greetings, hospitality professionals. Thank you for taking time out of your busy summer schedule to connect with us, whether you're a summer destination or a winter destination. August is a wonderful time to be busy, either enjoying the last couple of weeks of summer or getting ready for the first snowflakes to be falling on the mountainside. So appreciate you being here. VRNation is by property managers for property managers. As you see, we have our mission, our vision, and our focus as we start to focus on helping each of you be better at your craft of managing and curating your property management portfolio. Jess, you want to advance one slide for me, please? Thank you,
Yeah.
sir. So excellent. These are our speakers today. These are our guides as we walk down the labyrinth of why pricing alone won't fix what we're trying to accomplish. So we've got Jessica Singer and Jeffrey Englishman, who are here from BookingsCloud. I am your host, Dirk Johnson from Northwest Vacations, joining you from the smoky area of Chelan, Washington. And so, Jessica, if you'll advance one more, please. Next one. There we go. Excellent. So we will turn this over to Jess and to Jeffrey, who are our guides as we wander through, and they've got some great insight and items for us to consider as we look at how we're trying to put heads in beds.
I love it. And really, before I jump in, I just want to kind of shout out Dirk and any other managers out there who are also dealing with fires, whether it be in Washington. We've got fires here in Utah, fires in Oregon, California. They're kind of all over. So just want you all to know we're thinking about you. Let us know if you need anything at all, support.
The tongue in cheek would be, I'm having a s'mores party and a hot dog roast if anybody's interested, right? Isn't that what we're
Oh
supposed to
my
be doing?
gosh.
There we go.
Yes. We're
all
going to
over
roast
this.
marshmallows. We're going to do
We're
it.
all
We're
over
gonna do
this,
it.
right?
Oh
And we have
my
to have Canadian
gosh.
chocolate. So Jeffrey, you got to run across the border, get the Canadian chocolate, so we can do this thing.
I
I'll see
love
what I
it.
can do.
Oh my goodness. Well, thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity today. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're all at, whatever time of day it is. We just appreciate you joining us today. So thank you, thank you. I know there's a ton of webinars that you can register for, and we appreciate you giving us, 45 minutes or so with us today. So definitely nice to see you. We've got a lot of clients on here, so I've kind of looked at the attendee list. It's really cool to see that even BookingsCloud clients are hopping on VRNation. Attendees, we've seen you at the conferences. Just super happy to be here. So I'm Jessica Singer. I'm here with Jeff over on our team here at BookingsCloud. And we both work with vacation rental managers. We're working every single day on exactly the problem that we are covering today. Why pricing alone by itself, kind of in a silo, it really won't fix your occupancy problem. So we're also joined by Dirk, as you saw, representing VRNation. And is it okay if I mention you're also a BookingsCloud client? Is that cool if I mention that, Dirk?
Totally okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I guess I just mentioned it, so I hope that's okay. So we'll be kind of jumping through what this actually looks like on the ground. Love that Dirk is a property manager. He's been around a long time. He really knows his
Did you just call
stuff.
me old?
No, I did not.
Or
Yes, I did.
seasoned?
No, I did not.
Seasoned.
I did not.
I'm
I'm
seasoned.
undecided. You're seasoned. You're a seasoned
Seasoned.
property management professional. So before we dive in, a few quick housekeeping notes. We've talked about this. You've been on lots of webinars, so you know. The session runs about 45 minutes. So we're going to do approximately 30 minutes of chitter chatter. I also don't want it to be a snooze fest, y'all. So I've got some poll questions that are loaded. We'll ask you some questions. We want you to engage. Ask your questions in the Q&A. We'll answer them live when we get a chance. So we've got all of us kind of watching the chat and the Q&A, but if you can pop them into the Q&A, that's helpful, because then we actually can even post webinar. We can kind of see what questions were asked, and that helps us all learn and grow from that. So all right, so engage with us. So as you heard, I'm Jessica Singer. Maybe some of you know me. I'm sure a lot of you out there know me. Jeff Englishman over at BookingsCloud. He's our VP of Client Success. So for me, I've been in the industry just over a decade. Super passionate about solving problems with technology. I have had my own vacation rental for many, many years. So I've sat in the owner's seat, though not at scale the way you have, Dirk, or any of the managers out there. But I'm also a former founder in the e-commerce space. So have definitely been a founder, sat in your shoes, know what it's like to run a business. And I'm very passionate about working with founders. So, Jeff, why don't you share a little bit about yourself and a little bit of your background since you're actually new to the industry? So, I kind of love to
Yeah.
give you like a hospitality welcome to our space. You're going to love where you're at. The vacation rental industry is very special.
Uh,
So, tell us about
yeah,
you.
our already have so far. Jeff Englishman. I've been in marketing and data, and in numerous different industries, and focus for maybe like Dirk longer than I care to admit. I'm gonna go with seasoned as well, on this. So but newer to the hospitality space. I've spent a lot of time in automotive. I've spent a lot of time in different forms of travel as well, working with some of the other rental cars and airlines and things like that in a previous life, and found myself really passionate about working with vacation managers and and within this space recently. And so been really fun for us to take some of the data and some of the principles and some of the marketing themes that we learned in other industries as an organization, and apply them to this space and see the results. So it's been really cool. I head up our client success teams here, so work with our customers day to day, looking at revenue opportunities, looking at how they're pacing year over year, understanding what the data is saying, and try and kind of unravel that ball of yarn to give actionable items and what do we do because of it. So that's what me and my team focus on here at BookingsCloud.
So the data behind the scenes, I love that so much. So, I would say between the two of us, kind of across the table, really the three of us that are on before, we work and have kind of sat across the table from a ton of operators that, really want to talk about this sort of cut the rate conversation. So I want to kick it over to Dirk for just a moment. Since we're so lucky that you were on here hosting this, Dirk, I kind of want to, I would just love for you to share a little bit about your portfolio for those of who are on the webinar who don't know, and maybe why this topic hits home for you. Why now? Why this conversation? What resonates with you about the topic of this particular webinar, Dirk?
Sure. So I think of everybody. So I think of the word. The thought was you manage your rates, you manage your rates. Well, I there's a more holistic word, which is rate management. And so it's not just about rates; it's about the experience. I think of I'm not a fan of making my properties a commodity. I don't want, while I understand and respect that price is a component of people's decision making process, and we all have limited and finite discretionary income. I want people to be thinking about, oh, what's my experience going to be? Where am I going to go? What am I looking to accomplish while I am going to my destination? And so, yes, rates are a part of the conversation. It's also important to talk about the vision and expectations and what people are thinking about as they begin to make their travel plans and select their destination, then ultimately select their lodging. And so, making sure that it's a mix of all of those items is why that's important to me. So, it's not just, oh, what's the rate? It's all the other things attached to it. What's happening in the marketplace, what's happening in my portfolio, what's being rented, what's not being rented, what events are happening, and are people coming with a boat, or are they coming to ski, or are they just coming to sit by the pool and enjoy the weather? And so making sure that it's a holistic approach, which is why this is important to me.
I love that so much. You're totally right too. It's about so much more than just like setting a rate and just that's it. There's the whole other component. There's the actual property. There's their actual experience. It kind of reminds me of a post I did on LinkedIn yesterday just about people, right? There's so much more behind what we're doing than just the rate or just how you're marketing a property. It's really about the people at the end of the day and their experience that they're having. So here's kind of the shape of how we're envisioning this. We want this to be a very conversational webinar over the next, 30 minutes or so. We're going to talk about sort of the pricing reflex. There's a lot of revenue managers that I'm seeing on this call today, which is awesome. There's a lot of marketers as well, which is super cool to see that. I would say price tends to be the first lever that a lot of operators kind of reach for, a lot of revenue managers reach for when bookings are slow. We kind of want to
Well, and
uncover and just talk about it.
It's the easiest lever to pull.
It's the easiest. It's like the first one, easiest.
You think about, oh, if I run a special, people will react, and they do act. However, if you always run a special, then people expect a special to make a reservation.
Exactly.
And
Every
so
time.
trying to create this sense of the rate is the rate is the rate, and then only having specials at specific times of year, the national spending holidays as an example, i.e. Black
Mhm.
Friday, Cyber Monday, Travel Tuesday, Small Business Saturday, and so on. But then also making sure that our rates are consistent and that they reflect what's happening with the demand and everything else that's going on, I think.
I
Mhm.
absolutely love that thought. I'm taking notes, by the way, which is why I keep looking down. I'm taking notes because everything you're saying is so
Oh, no.
worthy of Jessica's
But I'm
notebook, like my full notebook.
trying to be seasoned like Mr. Jeff is what I'm trying.
You are both so seasoned, and I'm just going to take notes on everything you say the whole time. So we essentially want to talk through a framework for kind of diagnosing like really what's driving those gaps, right? Is it price? Is it visibility? Is it demand? What is it? Right? So because the fix is completely different depending on what the actual answer to that question is. So we're going to walk through some kind of real world scenarios that Jeff and I have experienced, even some that you have experienced, Dirk. We're going to talk about situations where I would say a discount was tried or a special. And it either worked or maybe it didn't. And why did it not work? What's the reason behind that? We're also going to talk about acting a little bit earlier in the process, how to influence that demand curve before discount or setting specials really becomes the only option. Because while it's the easiest option, it's kind of the first lever that we tend to pull because it's the easiest. It's not always the only option. Most cases, it's not the only option. So essentially, by the end of our conversation today, everybody here should essentially be able to kind of look at their soft calendar and know exactly kind of where to look first in which of those directions we're going to kind of talk about. So quick little poll. Thanks, Lauren, behind the scenes. Everybody, if you haven't been on a webinar before, there's a lot of work that goes into putting it together, and so I just want to say thanks to Lauren too. She's behind the scenes at VRNation, popping these things up right on cue. So I would love for everybody to take a minute, answer these questions if you don't mind. How confident are you diagnosing an occupancy gap? And I have two poll questions that we're going to pop up here. And what I just love giving you a couple minutes. So please, please, please answer them because that's going to help us kind of talk through what your answers are, what's resonating with most of you. So this is kind of a quick gut check, right? So kind of two of these pointed questions. How confident are you in diagnosing why a property is underbooked? Price, visibility, or demand? That's going to be one of the questions. And then this one. So let's 45 seconds or so, 30 seconds. Answer the question. And then Lauren, if you can pop the results of this up, that would be super helpful. And I'm just going to kind of jot it down because I want to kind of refer back to it while we are here. All right, perfect. So I'm going to screenshot this if you don't mind. I'm going to reference this in a minute. All right. How confident? So somewhat. So most of you, so everybody can kind of see this. Most of you are somewhat confident in diagnosing an occupancy gap. You have a hunch, but not hard numbers. What's so interesting is 10 years ago, I worked for a revenue management company. A lot of what revenue managers are doing is off of gut instinct. So there's a whole different rabbit holes we could go down. We could talk about the sort of component of marketing and working closer with your marketing team. My gut tells me there, and I can see from some of the attendees that some of them work directly with their marketing teams to kind of help diagnose. That way, we're not sort of arbitrarily setting rate reductions before actually talking to marketing. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So let's pop the second question up here and we'll talk about the answers to that as well. All right. When occupancy dips, what is your first move? There's no right or wrong answer here, by the way. I want you all to know that. No right or wrong answers. I'm not going to judge you personally, whether you're a revenue manager or marketer. You probably will have a different answer based on what role you play in a company. Let's give you all 30 seconds to answer this question. And then Dirk, I'm going to ask you what your answers are, if you're okay sharing what your answers would be to these.
Sure, you'll have to repeat the questions.
Yes. All right, let's see the answer to this one. Let's see what those poll results say. I'm going to screenshot this one too. All right, so when occupancy dips, what's your first move? So cut nightly rates and wait. A couple of you chose that one. Most of you chose loosen minimum stays and restrictions. Some of you chose put marketing behind the soft dates. And some of you chose hold steady. It usually comes back. Again, there's not a right answer, right? The different scenarios for different companies during different seasonalities. So Dirk, let's start with this question. What would your answer be on this one here? Which was
pretty good.
This.
Pretty good. I'm pretty confident. I have some good people that I work with that have information able to do that. So I feel pretty confident as to we understand why. And then when occupancy dips, totally depends on the season, totally depends on the market, totally depends on what's going on. There are times loosen stay restrictions. We have not had many stay restrictions. We made a decision earlier this year based on our market and based on what we were seeing in the marketplace to pull back where we could the minimum stays, to reduce those to as short as we could based on the property and the homeowner. And that has worked out well for us. You know, we've got 2-night, 3-night, 4-night stays, even a 10-night stay, depending on where we're at and what people are looking at. Rates are always moving no matter what. And then marketing for sure, we're always looking at the dates. And then hold steady. Yeah, it depends. Sometimes it's just happens to be, there was an event here in Washington State in the winter that slowed our reservations, and we just held steady because we knew everybody was focused on the floods and what was happening with the torrential rain that happened, and we knew that eventually the reservations would come back, and they did. And so to me, it's just a mix. It's how do I understand what's taking place? How do I understand my market, and how do I understand my guests? And how do I understand what their needs are? Because how I apply the principles in Eastern Washington versus Western Washington versus Florida versus the Smokies, the principles are the same, but how do I apply them? And that's where that's where the local expertise and connecting with professionals who understand the global picture really allow us to make the decisions that we need to make. I answer your question?
Yeah, totally. I mean, and honestly, I think it would be. I love that you shared that, and you're not wrong in anything you just shared. Again, like there's no wrong or right answers. Every manager tackles this differently. It does look like we have a participant that has a question. So here's where I'd like to say, I would love for any of you out there that want to share your thoughts on this. I would love for you to share. Okay, it looks like the person who had a question is no longer raising their hand. So thank you. So if anybody has a question here or you want to contribute to the conversation, I love being able to unmute you all so you can actually ask a question live. So if you are comfortable doing that and we have the ability, I don't know if this webinar allows that. Does it allow that, Dirk or Lauren, for other people to ask questions, or do they have to just type their questions?
They can type their questions for sure. I don't know if this is a question
If
for
we can
Lauren,
actually,
whether they can be
whether we can hear
unmuted or
them.
not. Right. Yeah. So
No
for
worries at
sure.
all. We can we can think about that. If you have questions, pop those into the Q&A, but we'll keep going in the time being. If you have a question, you can raise your hand in the like in your sort of like module down at the bottom. And that will cue us to actually like call you by name, and you can either type your question or we can figure out how to unmute you maybe and let you ask it. So moving into the next sort of beyond the actual poll questions, thank you for sharing all of that information. So sort of the core idea that we really want to talk about today is that pricing, it's really not the problem. It's usually the reaction to a deeper problem. So just kind of maybe like let that sink in for just a second. Discounting, it's not inherently wrong. Seasonality, setting rates based on your seasons or your booking windows, not wrong at all. It's the right call, right? It's a legitimate tool doing rate reductions. But when it's the first sort of automatic move every time occupancy dips, you're basically treating the symptom without ever diagnosing the disease or the problem behind it. That's an expensive, I don't want to say mistake, but it's an expensive decision that is made, right? Because you're spending margin to solve a problem that you've not really actually identified yet. So that's really what we're talking about today, and kind of going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into is that's a very strong statement. Pricing's not the problem. It's just usually the reaction to the actual problem. So some numbers. I kind of I don't want to read slides. You all can take screenshots. We can share the deck with you after if it's helpful, but let's just maybe start with why does it matter? Why the visibility conversation actually matters. So what I will read off of this is some of these stats. 65% of travelers say they struggle to find the right rental once they start shopping. So this was the number from Focusrite, by the way. If anybody's looking for the source, it came from Focusrite. They're struggling to actually find the right rental. So they're not struggling to afford it, right? They can't find it to begin with. So that's a visibility problem that's hiding inside what actually looks like it's a demand problem. So meanwhile, here's what a typical discount actually costs. It's maybe a 15% cut on a $300 ADR home. It's basically giving $45 away every night on that reservation, including the ones that would have been booked at the full rate anyways. And it's because of that, you often need something like an extra night and just like a 6-night window to just break even on what that cut was to begin with. So before it's even generating incremental revenue, does this sound familiar? Is this something you've encountered, Dirk? Is this a common thing that happens? I'm not saying this is common for you, but in general, is this something that resonates? Is something that you've encountered? The calendar kind of goes soft, you lower the rate, you loosen the minimum stay, and then you just kind of hope. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah. So again, no, because my minimum stays this year are for the most part at 2 nights. And
Got it. Yeah, great.
so we pulled that lever way back in
Way.
January, February, because we saw something in our marketplace that didn't feel right. And so we chose to do that. And that has actually been to our favor. The length of stay letter, which I would have been using 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the past, has not been used this year. Now, granted, I have select homes and select properties because of owners' preferences, where I do have a length of stay lever that I cannot pull. It's fixed. But again, we've allowed the marketplace, we've allowed the guests, and we've allowed the pricing to be and to drive that for us. And so our calendar's filled in nice. We've done all of those things. We are attentive to the holistic view of the marketplace, the rates, the guests, the clientele, the time of year, to make sure that we have the right rate to the right guest at the right time. So for me to say, using a length of stay lever, that has not played in our favor this year, because we pulled that lever way back at the beginning as we filled our summer.
Got it. And Jeff, are you seeing, I kind of want to toss it over to you for a few minutes, more because you're not only working with 100 plus BookingsCloud clients, but you also You also have likely seen some of these similar levers pulled outside of even the vacation industry. And without going like too deep into the auto industry and sort of your background, which is, where BookingsCloud hails from, this different industry but marketing. Like, what are you seeing with clients that you're working with every day? Like, keeping in mind we have clients that range from, one property to 10,000 plus properties. So, what are you seeing? Are you seeing any kind of commonality happening with different sizes? Are they doing different things based on their size? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think from an overall perspective, so even to take one step back, Dirk, how you described the process in your first move in this, that becomes I love that process, and I think a lot of folks, revenue managers, marketing managers, are taking that same approach. I think as you scale, not that it's not impossible, but it becomes increasingly harder and harder on the more properties you do that with.
Well, that
Really,
that that would be true of any operation in a property
total.
management side. Housekeeping, maintenance, front desk reservations, the more properties you have, the more the different way you have to apply the principles for success.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. And I think one thing that we've seen in this is across the conversations we're having is really taking a look at um seasonally adjusted trends. So to really understand, maybe before we have a problem, we're seeing with a lot of revenue managers taking a look as to what are some of the leading indicators maybe that I should address or recognize before I get to the point where pricing becomes the gut reaction to pull in that same sense of understanding when my bookings come in by month, understanding what that trend looks like, and then am I either bucking that trend or am I on pace to exceed where I should be based on what my portfolio can actually support. Um, if that makes sense. The the interesting thing that we've seen, the interesting thing we saw across the other industries. I mean, a price, regardless of industry, is always the easy thing to to pull quickly. We saw this in the automotive industry too. I mean, rewind 5, 10 years ago into the automotive space, where a lot of automotive dealers were really reliant on some of the aggregators and Auto Trader, Cars.com, things like that. Price is really the one thing that they could affect in some of those scenarios. Dirk, to your point, the hard on a car, a Jeep Cherokee is a Jeep Cherokee. That's definitely a commodity in that space. They had to really also focus on trying to own some of their own demand and focus exactly to the space and some of the things we're building in this industry, and you guys are all focused on building the experience and what's happening, what sets you apart and sets you apart from your competition, which really is your inventory and your experience and your markets,
Dirk,
and the
Dirk, what do you
properties
want to
that you
add?
have.
Well, I would just say that's exactly what you just described from the car industry is what's exactly we have now because of the OTAs. I
Exactly.
can't talk
Exactly
about
right.
my experience in the same way I can on my website to an Airbnb guest. I can't do those things.
Exactly.
So again, it's a mix. How do I utilize my mix to generate what I'm looking to do for my business objectives? We have
Mhm.
objectives of what percentage we want from direct book to the OTAs and by individual OTAs. What is that percentage and how am I affecting that? For sure, the marketing and the advertising and the rate management and all of the and how my get staff treat the guests are all components of that to affect and move where the guests book next time. So so again, the OTAs, again, they talk to me all the time. We want you to participate in this promotion or in this promotion. I'm not interested in becoming a commodity. I want people to book, not to say that it doesn't have its place. It does at certain times and specific seasons, just not 24 or 12 months, not
Mhm.
365 days. And so trying to take what you just said and apply it to me as I want more book direct because I can control my communication, control such a wrong word, but it's what it is. I can find out more about the guest. I can tailor the the guest experience in a much better way than I can through some of the OTA channels. And so making sure that my staff are trained from a guest service perspective, that my rates, my website, all those things fall in line with what we're looking to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, couldn't agree more. It really allows you to own your demand in a different way, um, in that scenario, Dirk. And
For sure.
and
For
I,
sure. And if I can
and
if I can twist it just slightly different, I mean, you look at the natural disasters that happen around where everybody may be listening to, whether that's storms, tornadoes, fires, avalanches, whatever the case may be. If I have email addresses and phone numbers of my clientele and my guests, well, in my particular case, once the smoke clears, we've already decided that we're going to have some fun with the words and we're going to do a fire sale, and we're going to have it for a short period of time. And we're going to offer a specific discount because, again, this is going to be part of that messaging because this is the urgency that I'm in. And we're going to have fun with it. And because I have email addresses and I can do a direct invitation, I now have that opportunity. Whereas some OTAs don't allow me to have that. And so now if I only operated on that one, I would be stuck because I can't be a master of my own destiny by having this aggregated guest information. And so being able to again, this comes back to this whole question. It's not just rate, it's the whole business as a whole. What are my cleaners doing in the properties to make sure that they are clean? What are my maintenance staff doing to make sure that it's done? What am I doing from a guest service training? How am I training my leadership team? How am I using the available tools, both physical, digital, and people resources to facilitate all of these pieces? It's not just, oh, it's the rate, then we'll move on. It's because I want to run a business, and the business is the sum of everything.
Mhm.
I'm
Couldn't
furiously
couldn't
writing
agree
notes over
more.
here. Not furious,
Yeah.
like not furious in a bad way, but I'm like
I just, it's, I
writing
mean,
notes. I'm like,
the reason we got into this is because we're passionate about certain aspects of what we do. I
yeah.
love checking people in. It is just the coolest thing. I love the morning when the cleaners are coming in and trying to do the hubbub and hustle, and the maintenance staff is gathering their stuff, and it's just cool to see this chaotic orchestra come together and just create this beautiful music throughout the day. Not to say there aren't missed notes and that there are mistakes, because if there weren't, I would be out of a job, and I'm kind of fond of my paycheck, to be quite candid with all of you. And so just trying to find the best path forward for me in what I'm doing. If I were in a different part of the country, it would be a different set of application of the principles. And that's why understanding the principles are important so that we can make decisions as to how to apply them to the journey or adventure, and ultimately, our goal of where we want our business to go.
Mhm.
It's true, and
So,
there's actually there's a really great comment. Actually, I've been kind of looking over the chat here. Roberta mentioned her county ordinance requires that they have the contact information on every adult guest, not just the person who booked the rental. And it kind of goes along the lines with, yes, owning your guests, yes, owning their information, yes, having the ability to, when you're doing a fire sale, like reach out to everybody. And if you don't own your demand, it does make that very, very difficult to do the things that sometimes you are regulatorily required to do. And not only that, but just those are the things that you want to do to run a successful, smart business. So, I know we're maybe I don't want to say we're not off track. We're definitely still on topic. Owning your demand is a core component of why we're here today and why we're having this conversation. but pricing and uncovering those gaps. I can skip ahead too because I know we're already 35 minutes in. We're like having a great conversation here, which is wonderful. High level on this slide, take a screenshot of it. It takes a little bit. Like I can't even like digest this quickly. I can't like say it quickly enough, but there's some really, really strong points here. Every occupancy gap is going to start in one of three places from what we've uncovered and what we've learned. So you have price, visibility, or demand. This the same, it's kind of same reason why this is true is if your listing traffic is really healthy, but your conversions are super weak, that's where you have a pricing problem. So we'll talk about this high level. People are seeing it and they're just passing for whatever the reason. Maybe you haven't worked hard enough on the things that are really important to you, Dirk, and that is like building your brand and actually having like thinking about it holistically and thinking about it outside of just the price itself. If your traffic itself has actually fallen, um, while kind of the overall market is actually holding steady, that's visibility. People are just not seeing you. So all of those other really great things that you want to focus on become less meaningful if they're not seeing you to begin with. If everything's down across the board, your listing and the market around it, everything is down, that's demand. Yeah. I mean, that's really, I would say, largely out of your control. This can happen in a market where there's fires surrounding you. They're everywhere. You're seeing some of these issues right now. So, in practice, we can talk about an example or we can skip it and actually talk about, you've already just shared some examples of why these things are really so super important to you. Um,
Well, one thing to
yeah,
put
add
a
to it.
finer point on that too, Jess, is I think to couple what you had said, Dirk, too, on obviously across the entire business as you scale that up, that gets really, really difficult because you can have um individual things happening on each different property. On one property, there might be a demand issue. On another property, you might have a pricing problem. On a third, you may have a visibility issue. Diagnosing that property by property is one thing that um, is as you expand a book up and a portfolio up becomes almost impossible to do manually. What we have a lot of conversations, and I see revenue managers and marketing managers doing together is utilizing tools and tech that is able to understand some of those trends ahead of time, where we can start to dive into at an individual property level what's the levers we should be pulling right now, what properties maybe need more traffic on them, what properties maybe are performing really well but operating as great referral properties for other homes within the portfolio that maybe don't get the traffic but they are fantastic in terms of folks kind of finding their way there once someone lands on the website and looking at another one that might be booked nearby. So that that whole equation is really, really difficult to do on a full portfolio all the way down to the individual property level. Um, but I think critical in understanding that and understanding what to do because of it, because it isn't a one size fits all. Back to
No.
the initial questions, there isn't a wrong one in this. Each property actually should have a different response in a lot of cases. So interesting to see that each person's on the calls response to it. Dirk, I'd be curious too on are there tools you're using right now to help make some of those decisions for you and your team in real time?
I was trying to come up with a real snarky answer, but I can't come up with it fast enough. So yes, I'll be serious in my response. We have a data mining tool that we use to mine into our PMS, which we're looking at consistently. We have a revenue management system that we use to manage our rates. Both of those look at the market. And so we're able to, and they each look at it in a slightly different way. So they give us different information and help us ask different questions. And then we also have the social media information that we aggregate from to look at what's happening, website trend information that we're looking at. And then obviously as mentioned earlier, we use BookingsCloud and what we're doing that way to do that. And we use it. I think we use we use BookingsCloud to augment and supplement what we're doing in other areas. So yeah, we have a quiver of arrows to pull from and to look at to see what we're doing and what's happening in our specific regions and areas.
Dirk, that's one of my favorite sayings. We're another arrow in the quiver. I say it all the time. So I love that you just said that. Maybe have I said that to you before? I must not have.
No.
I'm sure I have not.
Okay.
You are brilliant. And I just, it's so awesome to hear your experience, not only with us, but with other tools that you're using that work really, really well for you. If there's, I would say 3 things to take away, there's probably 12 things to take away from our conversation today. The 3 that, we wanted to highlight are, 1, diagnose before you discount. So, do things like pull traffic, look at conversions, look at market occupancy before you're touching the rate. Talk to your marketing team if you have one. It takes like 15 minutes.
And I would add to that, talk to other industry professionals.
Yeah.
We're using if you're using a rate management system, talk to your people there. If you're using
Mhm.
a data mining system, talk to the people there, talk to you. Really try to get a holistic look of what's happening. Not only, it's just like a funnel. You want to start at the top and then slowly work your way down to your area, because that has been very helpful. That is what led to our decision to reduce to 2-night stays back in January and February.
Mhm.
Was we were all intent on, length of stay lever, here's what we're going to do and when. And based on the information that was provided to us and what we learned, we decided to about face and just go straight to 2 nights, again, aside from all those. And that certainly has paid off for us this year, because again, we listen to it doesn't mean I take everything that the individuals say, but I have to learn and I have to decide what questions to ask and where, and discover as to why they are saying what they're saying, and be able to look at some of the information myself. I know I meet with my Airbnb professional, my Verbo professional, and they provide me interesting data and reference points that I utilize. So again, it's I'm the conductor and I'm driving my boat for occupancy. So I need this information so that I can facilitate that. So end that and I say this. Uh, Renee has asked a question. She's saying, aside from getting contact information for past guests, what is the solution to the visibility problem for new guests? She says, I may have missed the solution.
Jeff, do you
That's
want
a
to tackle that? It's a
yeah,
great question.
that's a fantastic question. I think um uh ultimately, I think the answer to that is traffic. So and Dirk, I'm
Qualified
also
high
curious.
intent traffic.
Dirk, I'm also curious as to if there's your thoughts and anything else you guys do today as well. Um, I think one thing, if you see a visibility problem on um, mounting on certain properties, the typically the solution to that is more eyeballs on those properties in a way um where you can own that as much as possible. So back to what Dirk was talking about on um direct bookings and website traffic and eyeballs on those campaigns or on those properties, spinning up specific campaigns at a property level to um the ones that ultimately have that visibility problem is a lot of times, where our customers and what we're working with folks to help do. um that's really the first lever I would pull in a visibility issue. Dirk, is there anything beyond that you guys are
No, I'm
are
for
doing
sure,
today?
whether that's social media posts, whether that's highlighting the property in an email, whether that's, if you can, reaching out to past guests or guests that stayed in a similar property and connecting with them if they can. I mean, there's any number of ways to, again, create that heightened sense of what you can do. I know Verbo's come out with a new program to allow people to heighten. I'm just learning that, and I have a meeting next week, I think, with my representative to learn about that. So it's a matter of how do I, uh, those items, and then if the other way would be pricing. You could price it if it's a 4 bedroom and all your 3 bedrooms are gone and you have a lot of 4 bedrooms, you could reduce your 4 bedroom price. So now it becomes more attractive to those that are looking at 3.
Right.
Again, there's all sorts of things that you can start to begin to be imaginative of what you can do to help create that visibility for that particular property.
And I just want to add
Makes
kind
sense.
of one last little like kind of anchor thought to that is that 'cause timing is so super important, right? Like visibility and positioning levers really only work if there's still time left for that attention that you're driving to that property to actually convert into a booking. So if you wait too long, that's exactly why we have pricing issues. You wait too long, and price becomes the only lever left to pull. It's the only one that you can pull if you've just waited too long. So for the visibility, um, influence the demand earlier in your booking window, and further use tools that can actually help you widen your booking windows um, pretty substantially. So important points, absolutely important points. Um, it's all about getting that right property in front of the right guest at exactly the right time, so that you can drive visibility using other levers than price. Um, Last little poll question for those that may hop off, and anybody that has any additional questions, we'd love to hear from you. Any other questions before we wrap? I know we had this slated for an hour, but we always like to just say 45 minutes is about as long as we really want to go, and we're a couple minutes over that. Happy to stay on if anybody has questions or wants to have dialogue, or even, kind of a sort of after webinar conversation. We are here. If you want to learn more about BookingsCloud, automatic demand generation, we drive brand new demand. Just answer the question here and we can follow up with you post webinar. Jeff and I would love to talk to you separate from this. And then Dirk is available. If you're not a member of VRNation, please become a member of VRNation. Tell your friends to become a member of VRNation. We love those guys over there. It's a totally different format, and our company has found incredible value from that organization. So if you're not, please do it. Any closing thoughts from you too, Dirk?
Yeah, no, Jess and Jeff, thank you so much for your time today. To each of you hospitality professionals, thank you for taking time to engage in the dialogue. I've seen some good dialogue here in the chat. We've got people all across the nation, which is wonderful to see. To each of you, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar, or maybe even at an upcoming trade show. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dirk, for the opportunity. We'll talk to you soon.